What
Philadelphia
if I told you your
News,
favorite
team of my
player might be
heart.
packing his bags? A trade that could send shockwaves through Philly is quietly taking shape. And it's not just about numbers, it's about pain, loyalty, and a future that's never been more uncertain. You ready for this? You've been here before. The heartbreak, the high hopes crashing down again. And this season, it cut deeper. Not just because your team missed the playoffs, but because the one piece you believe would carry this squad to the promised land, he barely touched the floor. You saw him, you hoped, and then he was gone again. Just 19 games. Then came the news you dreaded another surgery, another delay, another 6-week reevaluation timeline. And just like that, the season ended with a hollow silence. Not in a blaze of glory, but in a whisper of what could have been. Now, let me ask you, how many more times are you willing to go through this? How much longer can you hang your heart on a player who, let's be real, hasn't gotten you past the second round not once? You stood by him. Every injury, every comeback, every MVP campaign. But it's time to talk about something no one wants to say out loud. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to let go. This isn't about blame. It's about belief. And you, above anyone, deserve to believe in something that can actually deliver. There's a trade idea being talked about behind the scenes, one that could pair your superstar with an NBA champion, a player who's been there, done that, and knows what it takes when the lights burn brightest, and what would come back to Philly. Not just expiring contracts, not just picks, but breathing room, flexibility, and most importantly, a chance to really build around the electric young star who's shown he's got the guts to lead this city. Yeah, you know who I mean. You're not just watching Sixers news, you're feeling it. Because what's being discussed right now could shape your team's identity for the next decade. And the scariest part, it actually makes sense. You can feel the shift coming, not because of media pressure, but because something just isn't working anymore. And if you're honest with yourself, you know it to look. You didn't sign up for mediocrity. You signed up for parades, for packed Broad Street, for trust the process turning into we finally did it. But the process is stuck. And you've seen this movie too many times. A big man limping into the playoffs, carrying a city's hopes on one fragile knee. It's not fair to him. And it's not fair to you. That trade idea, it's risky, emotional, messy. But maybe that's exactly what this team needs. Because trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, that's not loyalty. That's lunacy. And you're smarter than that. You've got a coach who's not afraid to make hard decisions. You've got a front office under pressure. And you've got one of the most passionate fan bases in the entire league, you waiting for someone to finally stop the bleeding and make the bold move. What if I told you that giving up your centerpiece now could be the very thing that brings you a championship later? You can feel it, can't you? The uneasiness, the tension, the ticking clock. And behind it all, there's this one name, this one trade, this one move that might finally turn heartbreak into hope. But I won't tell you who. Not yet. All right. Let's not waste a second because you don't have any more to waste. You've been loyal long enough. You've waited through rebuilds, retools, whatevers. But what's happening behind the scenes right now? It could flip everything you thought you knew about this Sixers era. You've heard the whispers. A trade that pairs your star big man with a champion. A player who's tasted the mountaintop. And what do you get in return? Not scraps, not projects, but proven vets and future pick pieces that might not just help you reset, but let you breathe. Again, because let's face it, every time your MVP hits the floor, your heart skips. Not from excitement, but fear. Fear of another awkward landing, another grimace, another lost season. And here's the thing, if you keep going down this road, how long until you stop believing? How long until you stop showing up, stop chanting, stop hoping? Because right now, Hope is all you've got. In this city, it doesn't do false hope. It does grit. It does results. It does rings. What if I told you the guy is being offered in? This deal, they're not just contracts to match salary. They're culture guys. Guys who bring edge, fire, and toughness. And they've been through it. They've battled, they've won. And that's something your locker room could use more of. Guys who don't just show up in April, but who fight from October through June. And that's the kind of heartbeat this team's been missing. You've got Maxey stepping up, lighting it up, becoming the spark this franchise has been waiting for. And let's be real, don't you want to see what happens when you finally build this thing around him? Fully, not halfway, not when the big man's healthy, but for real, every night, every possession. His show, your show, the way this league is moving. Big threes are dying. What wins now? Depth, versatility, toughness. And that's exactly what a deal like this could bring. You. Because the picks, their protection, the vets, their insurance, and the cap space. That's freedom. And you haven't had that in years. Think about the last few off seasons. Always juggling contracts. Always trying to patch together a bench. Always scrambling. And you know who ends up paying the price? You. Watching your team run out of gas when it matters most. Over and over again. This trade, it doesn't just clear the books. It clears the fog. It gives you direction. And maybe that's what's been missing all along. Because let's be honest, you've had enough of the maybes. Maybe he'll stay healthy. Maybe this is the year. Maybe that new piece finally fits. You've been clinging to maybes like they were guarantees. But deep down, you're tired. You want something real. You want to walk into the Wells Fargo Center next season with something more than hope. You want belief. And belief comes when there's a plan. A clear, bold plan. Not just waiting and wishing, acting, deciding, leading, and you know what else you want. A team that plays with that same edge you bring to every game. Passion, grit. No excuses. This trade might not be flashy. It might not trend for all the right reasons. But sometimes the most important moves are the ones that make you uncomfortable. Because that's how you grow. And that's how your team can finally evolve from potential to powerhouse. You've seen other franchises do it. Pull the trigger. Take control. Why not you? Why not now? And look, no one's saying it'll be easy. Letting go never is. Especially when it's a player who made you believe again. Who carried this franchise through its darkest days? But ask yourself this, are you willing to sacrifice tomorrow just to hold onto yesterday? This trade idea, it might sound crazy until you remember how many titles were born out of boldness. Until you remember how many legends were built on risk. And maybe, just maybe, this is your moment. Still with me. So now we reach the part that makes your chest tighten. The part that forces you to look in the mirror not just as a Sixers fan, but as someone who's been all in for years. You've rocked the jersey. You've defended him in every argument. You've carried the weight of every heartbreaking exit. And now, you're being asked the unthinkable. What if it's time to say goodbye? Because yes, the player at the center of this trade, he's not just another name. He's not just numbers on a stat sheet. He's your guy. The one who made you believe the process wasn't just a punchline. The one who gave you MVP nights, buzzer beaters, stare downs, and battles that made your blood boil. And still, through all of that, he's never taken you past the second round. You're not ungrateful. You know what he's done. You know how. Many nights he's left it all out there. But year after year, injury after injury, setback after setback, it starts to add up. You know it. You feel it. The spark is still there. But the foundation, it's cracked. And no matter how much you patch it up, it keeps breaking. And that's where this trade comes in. It's not just about contracts or picks. It's about turning the page. Giving Maxey the keys. Giving Nick Nurse a roster he can mold from day One not a roster he's hoping stays healthy long enough to matter. You think this is easy for anyone? The front office, the fans, even the player himself? Of course not. But you didn't come here to watch another what if season. You came here because you want rings. You want parades. You want your city to scream louder than ever. And that's not happening by waiting on knees that just won't hold up dots. So here it is, the moment. The name that's been circling your mind since this video started. The player who's become the face of an era filled with hope, heartbreak, and unfulfilled dreams. Joel Embiid. Yes, him, the MVP, the icon, the anchor of your team for nearly a decade. And now, the centerpiece of a trade that could finally set you free. Because think about it, you deserve more than pain and patience. You deserve a team that can run the floor, close games, and stay healthy deep into May and June. This deal brings you Marcus Smart, a defensive general with playoff scars, Chris Middleton, a champion who knows how to finish, and to picks that give you power, flexibility, and a future. That's not a gamble. That's a pivot. And the best franchises pivot before. It's too late. Now I want to know what you think. Are you ready to move on from Embiid? Or do you believe there's still a chance to win it all with him here? If you made it to the end of this video, type the word heart in the comments so I know you're one of the real ones, someone who's got passion, loyalty, and fire for this team. And if you've got an opinion, I want to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're the kind of fan who wants to stay locked into every twist, every move, every real Sixers news update, then don't wait, subscribe, and hit the bell right now. Because what's coming this off-season? It's going to shake things up, and you're not going to want to miss a single second. Let's build something real again. You ready?